Hello, Star Citizens, and welcome to another episode of Invictus Launch Week 2954, 2024, whatever you want to call it. We are still doing our ship giveaway, and right now it's looking like we're actually going to be giving away that MPUV tractor, but I still don't have enough entries to make a selection, and I still don't know what my member wants, so that's going to factor in. But right now it's looking like we're giving away an MPUV tractor. Even though I did hear a lot of people talking about the Pulse, but yeah, that's what it looks like our giveaway ship is going to be. I'll probably cut it off tonight at midnight. So if you're watching this on May 19th, 2024, when it's actually going to come out, then I'll probably cut the selection process off at midnight tonight, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, today we're going over some Crusader Industries ships, Tumbril, Mirai, and Misk. So one note real quick. So I'm noticing that this sale is different. The war bonds, it's not a bunch of war bonds all at the same time. They're doing this daily war bond thing where you have to buy the war bond on the day it's available. So they're not all just listed and available. You have to catch them as they pop up. So as we continue to go through this is a lesson I learned since yesterday, is that these things are called daily war bonds, and I'll show you the one for today. But this all changes over at 12 p.m. every day. So if you're trying to get whatever I talk about in this video, make sure that you do it before 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time the following day. You know, you can convert that to whatever your time zone is, but that's when I think everything changes over for the next day. So let's get started. So we start with Crusader Industries. They have 8 ships available. We start with the A1 Spirit. The A1 Spirit it's a bomber, and it's meant to be like the baby A2, except it doesn't have a lot of what the A2 has. It's more like the A2's cousin, I would say. Not really the baby brother, but maybe the baby cousin. I think it's a little bit more of a fighter. It tries to fill that fighter role a little bit more because of its size, but it's not really a great fighter. So it's really just specifically a light bomber, but really this is meant for like the carpet bombing, as you can kind of see in the picture here. I don't think this has as big of a use as the A2. The A2, destroys everything. The A1 kind of, is more meant to like attack some ground forces, I think. Whereas I think if you want to blow up like, a small city, the A2 is going to do that. But don't forget that you can equip smaller bombs on the A2 as well. But also the A2 costs a whopping $550 more than this ship. So for most people, this is where your bombing should begin and end, right? But I think it all depends on what you want to do in the game. There's not a huge set of things for bombers to do right now, so I don't know if I would purchase this and apply the CCU, but I definitely would pick up a CCU if you think bombing is going to be something you're going to need to do. Like for me specifically, like the reason I have an A2 is because I know there's going to be people who I'm going to build cities for and things like that, and they're not going to pay me or something like that, or somebody's gonna build a city on my land or something like that, and I'm just gonna have to show them, politely with a Moab that you should be nicer to people. So yeah, that being said, though, again, the A2, I will even admit, is overpriced. So if you get the A1, more power to you. $200, not too bad. But again, all these ships can be purchased in game anyway, so don't worry too much about it. The A2 is our next ship. So this heavily went up in price in the game. I think it's like 64 million now in game, or 30 million. I can't remember how much it is, but it's way more in game now. The in-game cost of this is way more. And mind you, as a 3.23, the amount of money you make for most things that you do in the game has drastically went down. So it's going to take you a lot longer to earn these. But honestly, I don't see it taking people much longer than, a month to earn these types of things, right? So, you're going to have to put in the time and the effort. Part of the reason that I purchase ships, which I may not have said this before, but part of the reason I purchase ships is because of the time sink, right? So if I was to say, let's say I value my time at $25 per hour, right? Like that's how much, I might make at a job or something like that. Let's say, so if I'm going to put an hour into the game, then in order for me to get my value out of that, I need to put 20, that in order for me to get my value out of spending money on that game, it should at least cover, let's say if I spend $75 on the game, then it should provide me at least 3 hours worth of fun, so to speak, right? Or in this case, when I'm buying ships, it's gonna save me, it should save me an hour's worth of time for every $25 that I spend on a ship, right? And so I think it taking a month to earn an A2, or I mean, it might take you less, and we don't know what the final in-game price is going to be or anything like that. But I'm just giving the example of a month. If it takes that long to earn a Hercules, and I have to, play 6 hours a day to earn the Hercules, then 6 hours, and let's say I play for 30 days just for the sake of the math, right? Then I'm talking about $180, right? It's $180 worth of time, right? So that's generally what you want to spend, and so if that's how much we were doing, right? 6 hours, 30 days. I hope I did that right. 6 hours for 30 days straight. Yeah, that's 180. My math is right. So that would get you an A1 Spirit, right? So if we're talking money value, right? So what I should buy based on my own rule is an A1 Spirit. So why do I have an A2? Because it's cool. I know that was a long-winded way of saying that it's freaking cool, but that's why I have it. And it's the walking example of like, buy what you want in this game. I do a lot of reviews and I try to explain to people like, hey, it's your money. And this is my walking example of that, and it's honestly, it's the only ship that I have that doesn't meet my price to performance metric. But to me, it's one of my favorite ships, and it's top 3 of my favorite ships. And it's the one ship that I bought that I mostly bought because of how much I genuinely enjoy flying it, shooting with it, dropping bombs. Like, I like to do everything that this ship offers, including be able to carry 200 plus SCU of cargo with me after, blowing something up. So it just embodies a lot of what I want to do in the game. I could bring a lot of vehicles with me. I could bring other ships with me. I mean, it's just so useful in everything that it can do for my type of gameplay, right? So I'm just showing you, like, I don't necessarily always stick to my own rules, and I do that so that you don't have to like min-max everything in this game. You can just have fun. Whatever is the most fun to you, go for it, do it, right? And obviously we all have limits to our wallets, right? So I'm not saying just go out and buy a Javelin first day because it's cool, right? I'm just saying what you can afford, how much you value these things. So you don't always have to stick to a rule. I think you should have a code of some sort. I think you should have a logic to it, but it doesn't mean that you have to adhere to it. All right, I'm off my soapbox. All right, moving on. So the Ares Inferno, my respect for this ship has grown. So I rated this ship a while back. I think I gave it a 6 or a 7. But I haven't been able to play with it in master modes yet. But as of 3.22, I probably would have bumped that up to a 7 or an 8. My only problem with it is it not having an internal, I feel like, yes, it has the size 7 weapon on it, but there's no reason I can't have like a small interior to this ship. I just feel like it has the space for it. It feels like there's a lot of wing, just extra wing there. So I feel like it should just have a little bit of interior space. I would just love to be able to do box missions in this. You know, I think that would be really cool. Just CIG, just let us carry boxes in our lap, you know, no problem, right? I think you can do that. I just haven't tried it. So anyway, the Ares Infernos is awesome. It melts things so quickly, and even things that you wouldn't think it would have a chance against because they're faster and things like that. And that's as of 3.22. So I got to get into it as of 3.23 and check it out. But my guess is it hasn't changed a whole lot. But it's not a dogfighter, and I don't want to confuse you and make you think that it is. It's meant to destroy capital ships, like it says. But if you catch people off guard, it can do damage to anything, because that size 7 gun, as soon as it touches something, it's starting to melt. So yeah, I think I underrated it, but I think most people have a solid understanding of its rating. The Ion. So the Ion is, to me, it seems more like a shield killer. Like the Ion and the Inferno, I think, should be used together. You know, the Ion's gonna melt the shield, the Inferno's gonna melt the hull, and I think when used together, those two things will do so much damage. But one of the things I'm also learning is that it takes a little bit more than just one gun. So and that's kind of the way it should be. You don't want one ship to be the like super killer of everything, but these are the definition of punch above its weight class. I know we hear that a lot in Star Citizen, but both of these ships are good with that. I prefer the Inferno over the Ion. If you know it's going to be a longer battle, if you know that you're definitely going to run out of ammunition, you take the Ion. If you know you're looking at something that, you know, is a little bit of a softer target, then I would take the Inferno. Not softer as in easier to fight, but softer as in it's not going to be a long haul battle, then I would take the Inferno. Moving on, the C1 Spirit, the little cargo ship that could. So the C1 Spirit is both overrated and underrated at the same time, right? So it's overrated in the fact that people think that it's the end all be all for starter ships in some places, and I don't understand that, because it's $125. And I don't think you can have a end all be all starter ship for $125. It's a little expensive. But it's an advanced starter, and I put it in that category. And I think there's people that put it in that category as well. And it has great visibility in the front. It has decent guns and decent cargo. What I think the C1 is great at is being a ship that along an upgrade path, because I think the CL outclasses it, but the CL isn't in game yet. The Zeus Mark II CL, I think, outclasses it, and that's where I would say it's overrated, because people, I don't think, are comparing it enough to the CL. But at the same time, I do think this would be a ship on the way to the CL, right? And it's not that much more expensive. So yeah, I think it's a great little ship. I think if you have one of these and you keep it in your fleet, you're not going to be upset. I think I have to check to see what the stats are as of 3.23, but I think one of the issues with it is it wasn't very maneuverable, but it's a cargo ship, so it's not really supposed to be. So my expectation for this ship is really use it as a cargo ship until you get to the point where it just can't carry enough, and then you upgrade, you know. But it's a good ship. I don't think anybody that has one is going to be upset. The C2. Now, I gave this ship a heck of a rating. This is one of the best ships in the game. bar none. It's one of those ships that you can just, it has so much utility. And now with the addition of ships like the C8R and now the Nursa, you can make this ship whatever you want it to be. People think of it as just a cargo ship, but you can make it whatever you want. I can imagine, like you can see in the picture here, I can imagine putting a tank on here, and then I can imagine putting a Nursa on here, and then I can imagine putting a rock on here, right? And now I'm prepared for ground assault. I'm prepared to do bunkers, and I'm prepared to do little mining. Like, I can just put all of that into a C2 and just go and do whatever, right? Now, do you own all of those things? Do you own a Nova? Do you own, yeah, you might have to purchase those things in game, but the idea here is that you can do a lot with a C2, and it's just built for it. It's built to take all those things everywhere, and it's just the customizability is kind of unmatched when it comes to the C2 because it's all armored, right? And not to mention it has some decent pilot controlled guns as well. So hey, I think the C2 and its brother that we're going to talk about here, the M2, are two of the best ships in the game. And I think for me, I would choose the M2 over the C2 because it has the extra armor, and it has a little bit less cargo capacity, but not to the point where I think anybody's going to stress about what they can fit in it. Whereas the A2 has significantly less, but even still, I've been able to fit everything I need in the A2, so the M2 shouldn't be too much of an issue there. But I just think that extra gun and having that extra crew on board and that extra armor, I think is going to go a long way. So yeah, I think the M2, if you're buying out of the three, the M2, the A2, and the C2, I think the M2 is the best purchase. But I don't think you're going to go wrong with any of them as long as you need them for what they're useful for, right? So if you're not going to do any type of cargo or any type of ground assault, then I probably wouldn't get the C2. If you're not going to do ground assault at all, or you don't care about fighting too much, I wouldn't get the M2. And if you're not going to blow things up, or that's not a huge thing for you, I wouldn't get the A2. So yeah, my biggest issue with the C2 is that it doesn't have the tractor beam. And considering how much cargo it can carry, you're going to have to load that cargo manually. And that's part of why I put the M2 over it, because I think the actual role for these ships is the ground assault thing. And I do think you can carry things in it, but it's mostly meant to act as like you're bringing vehicles to do what you want to do in the game, not so much just packing it full of cargo and going from A to B. But that's an available option for it. So there you have it. If you get yourself that MPUV cargo, or MPUV tractor, if you get one of those, then you don't have to worry about that. You can just load it up with the MPUV tractor every time. Just keep on putting stuff in there. And don't forget that we're getting the freight elevators, so loading and unloading is going to be a thing anyway. So yes, it would be easier if you could just hop in the ship and use the tractor beam and pop everything on it. But we're going to have loading carts and stuff like that. So I think we'll be okay. And then the Mercury. So I'm noticing that they're not saying Mercury Star Runner as much anymore. Is the name just officially Mercury now? Huh. I wonder. Anyway, the Mercury is one of the faster ships in the game. Now, as of 3.23, I've looked this up. It is no longer the king of speed, and it's not even close to the king of speed. For its size, it's still extremely fast. Don't get me wrong. It's still faster than the 400i. I know I made that video a while back, but it's not significantly faster to the point where I think you have to choose this for its speed anymore. And that is interesting. So maybe some more follow-up videos to come on that. But I think the Mercury is still a great ship. I think it carries a decent amount of cargo. Now that you can put a Nursa on it, man, it's hard to not keep talking about the Nursa because it adds so much utility to every other ship in the game. But yeah, I'm thinking that the Mercury might be the better option to the 400i because of the existence of the Nursa. Because now you can't fit an Ursa on a 400i. You can't. And I wish you could, because that would solve a lot of problems, but you can't. And so because you can't, that means the Mercury is able to fit something that has that it's still able to do cargo, and it can fit a vehicle that can do medical. So that adds that adds something to the Mercury that the 400i can't do. So I'm flip-flopping on my 400i versus Mercury thing because of the existence of this vehicle now, and I say the Mercury is the clear choice. So for all you people who thought that I just was picking the 400i because I have something against the Mercury, here's your sign. You were wrong. No, I just wanted the Mercury to have a little bit more, and now it has that little bit more. So I'll probably be upgrading my 400i to a Mercury, and it's been fun. Don't get me wrong, 400i, I've had a lot of fun with you, but and I will say this about the 400i. The 400i has significantly better fighting power, right? The 400i has I think it's twice as much, more than twice as much hull capacity, right, as this. So when I think of that, I'm like, yeah, if I needed a defensive ship, then I would definitely go with that one. But I think this one is actually going to be the one that I take. I don't like the stilts at the bottom. I feel like it should have something better that it lands with, but it's more useful now that I could put a Nursa in it, and I'm going to be taking my Nursa everywhere. So yeah, I need a ship that can take it. Most of my ships that can't take it they're going the way of the Dodo. So you heard it here. I'm taking my Mercury. I'm bringing the Mercury back to the fleet, ladies and gentlemen, because of the Nursa. See, it's changing everything. I told you all that ship. Woo. All right, and that's it for Crusader. Let's hop to Tumbril. I'm sorry, I'm taking a long time with this video, but I'm just excited because things are changing. All right, the Cyclone AA. So this ship I think is a little bit overpriced, but at the same time, it serves a unique purpose, right? So I wonder, would I want the Cyclone AA or would I want the G12? Because the G12 AA is enclosed, but but the G12 AA isn't in game yet. So I feel like I would choose the G12 AA, and I think this one only has two. Missiles, and I think the G12 has 4. So I have to wait till the G12 AA gets in game, but I think that would be my choice. But however, the Cyclone is right now outside of the Nursa, of course. I think it's the best vehicle in the game, regardless of which version you have, because of its durability. I mean, you could drive that thing off of a cliff and then it just bounces, and maybe that's gonna go away. It's kind of unrealistic, but it seems like it can just handle everything. It's the super outdoorsy ship where I feel like it can handle pretty much everything you throw at it. And so adding some AA to it, some anti-aircraft stuff to it, I think is good. But I think that's why we need to talk about this one. So this one, it's also got the anti-air stuff. But the thing is, this one also has this gun here and a third seat for a gunner. So you got, well, it's not third seat. The gunner has to stand up, but you can take 3 people with you now. So it adds the ability to take 3 people with you. So I just don't see why I would go with the AA. I know this one has the larger missiles, so it's probably going to do a little better with anti-air stuff, but this can do ground and anti-air, so I don't know why I wouldn't just get the MT if I was looking for my vehicle to do that. Now, I got one of these for free, not for free. I got one of these in a pack when I bought my my Phoenix Emerald. So I have one of these, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet, but right now I'm keeping it just in case, because it's a Cyclone. I don't actually own a Cyclone, and this would be, so this would be the only Cyclone I owned, and I don't think it's bad to own. My biggest issue with it is that it can't fit in certain vehicles, but the biggest issue I had with it is it couldn't fit in the 400i, and as I just said, the 400i is gone, and I'm getting my MSR back. So yeah, it's interesting because two things happen, right? So I actually didn't trade my MSR out for a 400i. I traded my MSR out for a 600i, and then I bought a 400i instead of buying the MSR back. So yeah, it was a little interesting, but I know that I'm going to be taking vehicles with me everywhere. I need a ship that can fit more vehicles, and I'm more likely to take the MSR out with those vehicles, whether it's an MT or it's a Nursa. I'm more likely to take the vehicles out with me. So yeah, I'll probably get the MSR back then soon. And yeah, that'll be my fast hauling thing. So I'm back in the data running game. Not on purpose. But yeah. So that's gonna be like if I want to take a vehicle with me and do a little bit of cargo. It's a fast ship and stuff like that. But anyway, back to the Cyclone MT. This will fit on that. And I think that's the biggest issue with it, is it doesn't fit on certain ships because of the height requirement with that extra stuff on the top. But I also think it's the best Cyclone you can have. I just wouldn't purchase it. The only reason I have one is because it's in a pack, but I think if you're getting a Cyclone, that's the best one to get. The RN is obviously the fastest one. The RC I think is the fastest one. This is the Recon one. So this is the one with the scanner. I don't know what Recon gameplay is gonna look like for vehicles yet. So I can't really say whether this one's worth it or not. If you think that you're gonna need that, go for it. The TR, I haven't actually driven this one around a lot. But I think this one is the toughest one, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this one is going to have like the best ability, and it's anti-ground. You can do ground combat with it as well. And again, you got that third person. Actually, no, this one doesn't have the third person. This one has a turret. It doesn't have the third person. So but you do have the gun there. So I think this one is kind of like middle of the road. I don't know why I wouldn't get the MT instead, because I can do most of what this can do, except I think this one has the better armor. So if this one does indeed have the better armor, then that would be if you need the more defensive ship, or you're gonna run into a lot of stuff. The Tumbril Nova, I love it, but it's also overpriced, and I still don't quite see the purpose of tanks in game. Even though those guns, don't get me wrong, those guns on the Tumbril Nova do serious damage. So do not think that the Nova tank doesn't do it. Will destroy some stuff. Now, what I think they're supposed to be used for is if you're doing an assault on an open air base, like not an underground base, but an open air base. You have one of these, you drop one of these off in your A2, it slides off, and then you take this into the battlefield, hoping that they don't have a rail gun or that they're terrible with their aim, and then you just pick targets off, you blow chunks off the building, you shoot through walls, you take out the anti-air. You can do all types of stuff with it. I think that's its main purpose, but we just don't have enough of that gameplay yet for me to spend $120 on a Nova. But I do think it is a very solid thing for people who intend for that to be their primary gameplay. And this one was weird. When I heard about the TR, the Ranger TR being here, I was like, okay, I get it. It is a ground combat ship. This is Invictus. but you don't sell this yet. I feel, I don't know. It felt a little weird to me. I was like because I think it feels weird to me because I'm still wondering why we don't have this in game yet. Because it seems like a fairly simple thing. Yet we got the Pulse before we got this. The Pulse seems a lot more complicated than this. So I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong. This is the first two-wheeled vehicle that they're gonna do, so maybe they're trying to still figure out the what that's gonna be like. But I think it's a decent ship. I don't know if it's worth $40. I think if you way back, if you got the 3-pack, that I think that it's worth it, you know. But I got that 3-pack and I really just used it for tokens. I think the ship will be pretty cheap in game. I still stick with the fact that the Nurse is the only one that I think is worth the money outside of the game, and I'll keep that. The Storm, I don't quite understand it yet. I haven't reviewed this one yet, so I haven't spent a whole lot of time in it, but from what I've experienced with it, it seems like somewhere between an Ursa and it seems like it's somewhere between an Ursa and what do I say? Maybe an Ursa and a Nova. I'd say I put it somewhere between an Ursa and a Nova. And I'm not sure we needed something in between an Ursa and a Nova. But at the same time, I'm glad the option is available for people who might have been thinking that way. Just because I didn't think we needed it doesn't mean somebody out there doesn't think we need it. So hey, I think if you needed something a little tougher than an Ursa, but you didn't quite want a Nova because you needed something a little faster than that, then the Storm is for you. My only issue with it is I just wish it wasn't a single seater. I feel like this could have been a 2-seater, 3-seater type of deal, and I think it would have worked better. Even if you had like an unprotected, you know, gunner at the top or something with a second gun or something. I think I don't understand it, but I know that somebody loves it, so there it is. And this one, the Storm AA, I feel like this could have also used a gun, but it does have a ton of missiles, so I will give you that. It's fast. It's faster than a Nova. It's faster than a lot of AA vehicles. So, and it has the you know, the double missile size. So it has 2 different missile sizes. I think I haven't, again, another ship that I haven't reviewed yet. I think it's a little overpriced for what you get, but at the same time, I understand its pricing based on where everything else is priced. I think both of these are earning game. But at the same time, if you have some unique need for them, then I understand. Go for it. And that's Tumbril. Let's go to Mirai. I don't think Mirai has a lot. Yeah, they have 4 vehicles. So the Fury, much beloved vehicle. I think this is probably the most popular snub fighter in the game. I think most people prefer this to like the Kruger and the why am I having a hard time? Like the 85X or whatever. They are like, people prefer this so much more than those other smaller ships. But me personally, I prefer the Kruger. At the same time though, I think that's mainly because of the looks, because I don't know if you've seen that P-72, but it looks chef's kiss. So yeah, I prefer the P-72, but the Fury does have some stats over it that I kind of like. So it's a coin flip, whichever one you prefer. I think the Fury is a little bit more maneuverable, if I'm not mistaken, whereas the P-72, the Archimedes, is a little bit more fast, like speedy. Actually, I think the P-72 is, as of 3.23, I think it's the fastest ship in the game now. So yeah, don't quote me on that. We have to check the stats because 3.23 is still pretty new, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it is now. So yeah, so you know, it depends. When you think of snub, do you need your ship to be a little bit more agile, or do you need it to be more speedy? So whichever one you need, there you go. The MX, I don't quite understand. It's a tiny little missile boat, but I found that most of the time when I want to, you know, deal out missiles, I want to take something that could take a little bit more damage. At the same time, you know, being able, if you know how to use it right, I still feel like the Fury MX can do some damage. And I think it shines best when you have other ships that are attacking. And this one can just come in, you know, unload all of its missiles, and then, you know, head out, restock, come back. But if it has to stay in the fight, I think it's going to have a little bit of an issue. So if I'm choosing between this and the regular Fury, then I would choose the regular Fury, but I see the place for it a little bit. Then the Pulse, I just talked about the Pulse, did a whole video about the Pulse, so I won't talk about it much, but it's extremely cheap. It's one of the ships that if you purchase it now, I think it's going to be useful as a token later, even if you don't like it. So you could purchase it and just sit on it and then see if you like some other ship later, and then, you know, apply your CCU token and get LTI on whatever other ship, you know. And if you don't end up using it, just, you know, melt it and keep the credits. But yeah, it's the cheapest ship. It's one of the cheapest ships in the game now. It's really fast. It's really tiny. It can fit on almost any ship, which I think is what makes it one of the most useful vehicles in the game. And you know, I talk a lot about the Nursa and how that's going to change the game. This is going to change the game too. There's going to be ships that used to never be able to fit a vehicle on them, and now all of a sudden they can fit a vehicle on them. So this is going to change the game as well. So if you bought this one cash, you know, I'm not going to be mad at you. I still think it's going to be dirt cheap in game, and you should probably purchase it in game. But the Nursa will be that way as well. So, you know, I'm not hating on anybody today for this one, because again, you don't always have to follow your rules, right? And our last one, which is the Razor EX. Now, this one is currently on the chopping block of my fleet, because I added it because of what its stats were in 3.22, but those stats have changed a little bit in 3.23, and I'm not 100% sure that I need it anymore. But that being said, maybe I do, because I don't have any other stealth ships, and I want at least one stealth ship, because I like to have access to certain types of gameplay. The EX is at the top of my list for stealth ships, but the only reason the reason you might be asking, well, why is it on your chopping block if it's at the top of your list for certain things? Because I just heard about that Firebird, that Saber Firebird. So now I have to compare this to the Saber Firebird and see if I prefer the Saber Firebird, because that one might beat this one out, you know. I need to get some more stats on, like, which one is more stealth, which one is more you know, which one is faster, so on and so forth. Right now, I'm thinking the Razor EX is going to win out on speed, and I think the Saber is probably going to win out on durability. So I do intend to fight with my stealth ship, so it might be better for me to get the Saber. So we have to see what the Saber is. But all that being said, the Razor EX is in my fleet, so that should tell you how much I like it. This is normally one of those ships that I think most people think is earn in game. It is going to be cheap in game, but to me, I think the utility of this particular stealth ship is going to go unnoticed. It doesn't have a huge cross section. It doesn't heat up and light you up like a Christmas tree. It has, if you replace those guns on it with ballistics, it can do some damage. It can get out of the way, and it's very difficult to hit. Like, I think this ship is a very underrated ship. So I can't wait till I do my Mirai, you know, review on it and everything. But I think this is a sleeper ship here, and yeah, that's why I picked one up. But let's see if the Saber knocks it out of its contention. So, all right, that's it for Mirai. Let's go to Misk. Misk has 3. So the Freelancer Miz, I think until this gets an update, I can't suggest it to anybody because it needs an update. I've never liked the look of Freelancer ships, but their utility is still awesome. So I will still say that the Freelancer Miz is a very nice gunboat, especially for the price. That being said, though, it's so outdated that I can't really recommend it to people. However, I've met people that have had fun with it. So if you have fun with yours, I 100% understand. I would not tell anybody to trade it in. I think if you like a ship, wait, and you know that it's getting a rework like this one, wait till it gets its rework and then see what happens. Because I do think this one is going to get a rework, and I think it's going to be resembling a little bit more like the Hull series with its body and stuff like that. I think it'll get like the kind of upgrade to be more sleek. But as always with MISC, these mail slots, I don't get it. Mail slot here. This one doesn't have it, so it's not that they have to do it. But yeah, I just wish it had better visibility. I like that it has this up here, but I don't know. I feel like all of this could have just been glass, and then it would have just made it so much better. But you know, I don't know how hard targeting is gonna be in the game, the final version of it. Right now, it doesn't seem that hard, and the gameplay slowed down, so I don't know how much visibility is going to play a factor. But yeah, the Freelancer Miz, it's one of those meh ships to me, where it's like I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. But I also am waiting for it to get a rework, so it's kind of in a no man's land right now. The Reliant Tana is a no, not because it's a bad ship, but again, another ship that needs a rework before we can really give it its just due. But one thing I specifically don't like about the Tana is its cross section. That thing, like, look at it. You see how long those wings are, and that's what's coming directly at you. It's long, it's lengthy, its beam and height and everything is just long. And I do like the animation. I like how cool it is when it flips and stuff like that. You could put some decent guns on it, but I'll review it later. But I don't think it's worth it. I think there's better ships at the $75, $65, and $85 and $90 price mark. There's ships that are so close in price to this that I can't see suggesting it. But if you have one, I don't think it was a poor choice. I just think you should make sure you need this for that unique experience that you want in the game. And then the Starfarer Gemini. This is the armored version of the Starfarer. I really like what the Starfarer is supposed to do. I just don't understand why they kept this from mining Quantanium. That completely nullified my want for a Starfarer. The Starfarer, so it's supposed to be the Starfarer Gemini is the armored one that's more capable. It's the one that mostly just refuels from the back. It's more of the tanker, the defensive tanker, whereas the regular Starfarer is the one that actually goes and collects the fuel and can refill you. I just don't. It just seems like a weird choice to make it to where the Starfarer doesn't mine Quantanium, but a ship like the Odyssey can mine Quantanium. It just seems really weird to me. So I can't justify. I mean, at $300 price points, there can't be a whole lot wrong with your ship. And besides the fact that this one is yet another one that is massively outdated, along with the mail slot, it's not a fighter ship, so you don't really need great visibility anyway. I just need more. I think this is more us waiting on the gameplay of the ship, not so much waiting on the ship to be a better ship. Yeah, I don't think that anybody who has this ship should sell it though. I think this is going to end up being a way underutilized ship. I don't think this is exciting gameplay to most, so I think there's not going to be a lot of people who have a Starfarer, and the people who do are going to make a lot of money. So even though it's one of the few ships I probably should have in my fleet that I don't, I'm going to take that chance, me personally. And that is it for the main ships. But let's go down and see. Looks like they're doing the Starfarer Gemini for the Warbond daily deal. So probably gonna be, let's see, the war bond for a Gemini is always the same ship. It's a mole. So it's a $20 discount. $20 discount on the Gemini, so it should be from $340 down to $320. So that means you pay $320 for the Starfarer Gemini. So that means you can get a $5 CCU. If you get the mole to Starfarer Gemini upgrade, you can get, you know, a $5 CCU there and save yourself what, 20 bucks. So I think that's a solid CCU to get if you're looking for something that's higher than that $340 price point. You know, if you're looking in the $350 ships and above, you know, yeah, that's a solid war bond to get. Or obviously, if you're looking for the Starfarer Gemini, this is a decent time to buy it. I think hopefully you got some war bonds stacked around somewhere else to save a little bit more money on it, because I think this ship is, right now, it's worth about $250, and that's what I'd want to pay for it. But I do think in the future it's going to go up to about $450 or $500. I think that'll be its final value. So whatever you pay right now, you're still getting it at a pretty decent discount. I just would want to pay $250 right now. I think that's its current value, not its future. Yeah, and that is it. You know, you can go buy a Misk t-shirt if you're a huge fan of Musashi Industrial Starflight Concern. But yeah, I'm kind of digging this so far. I like what's available. All right, so I'm off. I'm gonna go and buy myself a $10 CCU from a 400i to a MSR after talking all that crap, because such is Star Citizen. I still stand by my videos. I still think the 400i has a solid argument against the MSR, and the 600i was still a good choice. But this is what the MSR does, people. It brings you back. Every time I think I'm out, it pulls me back in. Shout out to you if you get the reference. All right, that's enough. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for spending your time with us. Peace.